$1.6 billion, a 2026 FIFA World Cup semifinal venue, Super Bowl host, a roof so ambitious architects named it after the Roman Pantheon, and the first LEED Platinum certified stadium in NFL history. By every measure, Mercedes-Benz Stadium is a triumph. Except the roof that defined it didn't work on opening day. It leaked on national television during the biggest college football game of the year. It took 3 years to fully automate, all while the city watched its $250 million drip through the ceiling. Was this the most visionary build in sports history, or the most catastrophic engineering gamble ever taken with public money? To answer that, you have to go back to the beginning. Arthur Blank co-founded Home Depot, bought the Atlanta Falcons in 2002, and from the moment he walked into the Georgia Dome as the new owner, he had one obsession. Not just a new stadium, a roof unlike anything professional sports had ever seen. The Georgia Dome wasn't a disaster. It had hosted 2 Super Bowls, the 1996 Olympics, and 37 million fans across 25 years. It worked. But Blank wanted something the Dome could never be. He wanted a building that could chase FIFA, attract another Super Bowl, and put Atlanta permanently on the map of global sport. And he wanted a roof that would make people stop and stare before they even walked inside. The original budget was $700 million. That number had no idea what it had just signed up for. Getting the stadium built meant clearing the land first, and clearing the land meant asking 2 historic black churches to leave. Friendship Baptist, founded in 1862, the congregation where both Spelman College and Morehouse College were born, and Mount Vernon Baptist, a neighborhood anchor for over 5 decades. Both voted to sell. The city paid Friendship $19.5 million. Mount Vernon received $14.5 million. Members said they grieved the old walls. One woman told reporters her heart was still on Mitchell Street. Another said every time she drove past the stadium, she missed what used to stand there. These weren't just buildings. They were 150 years of community history, cleared to make room for a football team's architectural ambition. The demolitions happened in 2014. Ground broke on May 19th. The stadium was scheduled to open March 1st, 2017. The roof had other plans. The design was unlike anything attempted before in professional sports. Architect Bill Johnson drew the circular opening directly from the Pantheon in Rome, the project's actual working name during early development. 8 triangular panels, each made from a lightweight translucent material, cantilevering roughly 200 feet over the field. All 8 weighing a combined 4,000 tons of moving steel, engineered to open like a camera shutter in under 12 minutes. It was breathtaking on paper. In practice, it nearly broke the entire project. Nobody had ever built a moving roof this complex. And the problem started before a single panel was installed. Steel was being fabricated across 32 plants in the US and Canada, and the coordination between them was a nightmare. Pieces arrived late. Tolerances were wrong. Every delay in fabrication pushed the installation timeline further back. Every missed installation milestone pushed the opening date with it. The engineering firm spent years firefighting problems that shouldn't have existed if the design had been fully stress-tested earlier. Before the building even opened, the roof had already pushed costs $208 million beyond projections. The total bill climbed from $700 million to $1.6 billion, more than double. And the building wasn't even finished yet. March 2017, no stadium. Opening pushed to June. June arrived, still not ready. Pushed to July. Then July slipped too. By the time August 26th finally arrived, the project was nearly 6 months behind its original target. 3 separate delays, every single one traced back to the same thing: the roof. CEO Steve Cannon stood in front of cameras and called it a timeline issue. Normal steelwork had taken longer than expected, he said. Nothing to worry about. But the Georgia Dome's demolition had already been put on hold as a contingency because nobody could guarantee the new building would be ready. The dome had been stripped of its field and vacated. There was no fallback. It was a crisis dressed up in careful language. Behind closed doors, the pressure was immense. 12,000 workers had logged 6 million labor hours on this project. 19 cranes had operated simultaneously at peak construction. The scale was extraordinary. And all of it was being held hostage by 8 triangular panels that refused to cooperate. When the stadium finally opened on August 26th, one thing was immediately obvious. The roof was closed, and it wasn't going to open anytime soon. The alignment process was still underway. Each of the 8 panels had to be moved across its tracks while engineers carefully calibrated the weight distribution at every point along the rail, ensuring the mechanism wouldn't wear down prematurely. It required 8 separate operators just to run a single test. Each test took up to 2 days, and every test had to be squeezed around the stadium's live event calendar. The retractable roof was not retracting. The most talked about feature of the most expensive stadium in Georgia's history was, in plain terms, a very expensive fixed ceiling. The expectation was a roof that opened in minutes and gave Atlanta its sky. The reality, through the entire first season, was a sealed dome that nobody could tell you when it would open. Fans arrived at a $1.6 billion building and sat under a ceiling that looked spectacular but did exactly what the old Georgia Dome had always done, nothing more. The roof did move for the first time during a live event on October 22, 2017. Atlanta United hosting Toronto FC. Over 70,000 fans inside watching the pedals pull back and the sky appear above the field. A genuine moment, real progress, the building finally doing what it was designed to do. Then it rained. January 8, 2018. College Football National Championship. Alabama versus Georgia. One of the most watched games of the season played inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium with the whole country tuned in. 5 months after opening, cameras caught it first. Water falling through the roof near the 25-yard line, dripping onto the sidelines, inside a brand new building that had already cost the city $250 million.
Another big headline today, more complaints tonight that the roof at Mercedes-Benz Stadium may be leaking. Our crew shot this video of some drops of water falling onto the field near the 22-yard line. The AP is also reporting some wet spots on security workers' shirts, and we asked the stadium about it.
Stadium officials called the water drips. Common in new construction, they said. It would be fixed. Atlanta's City Council President Felicia Moore was less reassuring. She confirmed the roof had been leaking since earlier in the season, that it had been brought to her attention, and that she was not aware it was still happening. Then she offered a summary that captured the entire situation perfectly. They had gone from the roof actually raining inside to just a dribble. "We're making progress," she said. $250 million in public money, making progress. That single moment, water falling through a closed 5-month-old roof on national television, became the defining image of everything people feared about this project. Not the delays, not the cost overruns, the drip. Visible, embarrassing, and impossible to spin. The most ambitious roof in sports history couldn't keep the rain out. The financial picture underneath was just as uncomfortable. Public bonds covered roughly $250 million of the total cost, backed by hotel-motel tax revenue. But analysis of the full deal suggested the total public obligation over the lifetime of the arrangement would climb considerably higher once operations and ongoing maintenance were factored in. The Falcons pay no rent, no property taxes. Arthur Blank operates the building and keeps the revenue. The state of Georgia technically owns it. Critics called it a billionaire's stadium built on public money. Supporters called it an investment Atlanta couldn't afford not to make. Neither side was entirely wrong, and the argument never really ended. What did end eventually was the roof saga. Full automation was finally demonstrated in September 2020, 3 years after opening day. The 8-pedal system opened in just over 8 minutes, under the 12-minute maximum that had been promised at the design stage. The engineers who had spent years wrestling this thing into operation finally got their moment. Standing in the stadium watching 4,000 tons of steel move in choreographed silence was, by all accounts, something worth seeing. But here's the honest summary. It took 3 years longer than planned, cost hundreds of millions more than projected, dripped on national television while it was still brand new, and the senior executive who oversaw the project openly admitted he doubted anyone would ever attempt a roof this complicated again. One of a kind, he called it. He was right on both counts. What saved the story of Mercedes-Benz Stadium is everything the roof couldn't carry alone. Super Bowl 53 in 2019. The MLS Cup at home in front of 73,000. Taylor Swift's Eras Tour pulling nearly 200,000 fans across 3 nights. Copa America 2024 opened here. 6 FIFA Club World Cup matches in 2025. And this summer, 8 2026 World Cup matches. 5 group stage games, a round of 32, a round of 16, and a semi-final on July 15th, broadcast to hundreds of millions of people worldwide. The stadium, built on cleared land, delayed by a roof nobody could finish on time, will be one of the most watched venues on the planet. The roof will be open that day, all 8 pedals, fully automated, right on cue. Arthur Blank wanted to build something that lasts. He did. The events come. The crowds fill it. Atlanta got its World Cup. The building works exactly as promised, just 3 years later than planned and nearly $1 billion more than budgeted. They built the most complex moving roof in sports history. It resisted them at every stage. It cost more than anyone planned. It embarrassed them publicly. And it still became the most iconic feature of one of the greatest stadiums ever built. That's the thing about massive gambles. The ones that survive long enough stop looking like disasters. They start looking like vision. Have you been inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Do you think the roof was worth everything it cost? Drop your take in the comments. If you want more stories about billion-dollar ambitions that nearly broke before they delivered, subscribe and hit the bell. More coming soon.